I'm Jason Salvo. This is Siri Erickson-Brown of Local Roots Farm, for those of you who might just be tuning in. And we are here with Tim and Caroline from Kitchen Garden Farm. And we're going to eat some radicchio together. We're going to talk about what it tastes like. We're going to shoot the breeze and have a fun hour just being weird. So we're going to, I think Tim and Caroline, if you guys introduce yourselves, and then Siri is going to say a couple things about what this is, and then we're just going to go through all the different varieties of radicchio one by one.
So guys, hi. And please tell us like who you are and about your farm, and especially like your lifelong love affair with radicchio, please.
I just have to say, I feel after watching this for a few hours, I feel incredibly validated in my obsession with radicchio going back to the early 2000s. So Caroline and I run a vegetable farm in Massachusetts, all the way on the East Coast. For most of you West Coasters out there, it is possible to grow radicchio, although challenging in our climate too.
We're so jealous of you guys in the Pacific Northwest. You make it look so easy over there.
So we, have a similar type of operation to Jason and Siri. We sell to local folks. We sell to restaurants. We sell wholesale to distributors. I think we're a bit larger in scale. We're growing on about 50 acres.
Right. We started in 2006. Started with 1 acre, grew it incrementally over the past 15 years. And now we have about 25 people working with us. And yeah, I don't know, we're growing a couple acres of radicchio now.
We're growing about 2 acres this year. As you can see, we grew some radicchio.
Oh, beautiful. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. And so what this segment of Rad TV is all about is our attempt to recreate one of the most magical experiences that happens at the real life Sagra del Radicchio, which actually originated with a festival / kind of field day that Jason and I started putting on our farm about 5 years ago.
Inspired actually by you guys.
By the Chili Fest.
By your Chili Fest.
Okay.
It was.
No.
Yeah.
I know that actually.
Well, we're all inspired by the Italian seasonal sagre in various parts of Italy celebrating their local specialties.
For sure.
And what we realized is that, we wanted to like go big on radicchio. We love radicchio, and it was clear to us that like a lot of the chefs we were trying to push this stuff on were like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, we'll try it. And but what they were kind of missing out on is the fact that like it turns from this disgusting, ugly green lump thing into this beautiful jewels. And so what I really wanted was for them to come to the farm, walk the fields, see how it transforms, and then get to taste to like, why do we grow 10 different kinds of radicchio? Well, we were hoping that people would be able to come to the farm and taste all the varieties at the same time, same place. And so hence the raw bar was born. And when we blew it up and brought it into the big city and held this event at the Palace Ballroom the last couple of years, the raw bar has been at the heart of the event. And what we have is a bunch of farmers and seed folks standing behind this big, beautiful spread. And the amazing thing about the in-person Sagra is sort of the networking, the chats, the side conversations that happen. And so it all kind of like happening in and around like the room. So we're hoping to like kind of recreate that today with you guys and us, and hope to give everybody who's watching the feeling that they're sort of like eavesdropping on a conversation between like 4 super rad farmers. So, and for folks who are listening, we'd love for you to be on the YouTube chat, like putting your questions in there, and our like compatriots over here will be feeding us the questions. So the next thing we're gonna do is eat the radicchio.
Well, actually, I think first, guys, cheers. We have a little bit of refill.
I wish you were here.
I know.
Yes.
Attention.
To next year.
Yeah.
Next year in Seattle.
See.
So I thought that we could go through, I think we have maybe one more variety than you guys do, but I thought we could go through from most bitter to least bitter and just kind of talk about what we do with them and what we like about each variety. And I think that Rosa di Verona is the most bitter of our varieties, but I'm wondering if you would agree with that.
Oh yeah, tell us your lineup.
I was just sampling in the meantime, and
He said they all taste the same.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
I don't.
First year growing
it was more bitter than say Castelfranco, but I don't find really any of them to be overly bitter.
Okay, sure, yeah, I know, but that's because our palates are all like freaks. But there
Oh my
are.
gosh, I don't know if you can see the like watercolor, beautiful pink,
Nice.
delicate inside that white rib.
It's almost like painted with a paintbrush.
Yeah, that's what I love about
This
radicchio.
Verona is really the most beautiful.
Give me some inside part.
And some
We
inside
need to
part.
compare
All
the
right.
outer leaves to the inner parts as well.
Yeah, here.
It's like a wallet.
That sure is bitter.
That's bitter.
There's no getting
I
around
don't
it.
know.
I know. I think my palate has skewed so far
Mhm.
that I think are supposed to be bitter. I'm like, not detecting bitterness.
So my inner leaf here, the bitterness is still there at the end, but first I'm getting more of the sweetness in the rib.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot more nuance.
In the rib, I'm getting like a sugary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you guys had a frost?
We've
Had
two nights that were 32 degrees, so very, very light frost.
So these will certainly become more mild as they are subjected to more frost.
It's not
So
bad.
this one,
Even if
yeah.
this is the most bitter, this is pretty tame.
Mhm.
but like I said, guys,
I think our palates are skewed.
Even on the finish, you kind of get a bit of a lingering, bitter, like you just took a sip of Fernet or something.
But it's a lot of rib.
It's not unpleasant.
Compared to the leaf, it's like highly proportion of fat rib, which is where the soup is concentrated.
What I like about this also is that the texture of the leaf is quite unique in that it's very substantial. It's almost waxy. It's thick.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Where'd you get the seed? This is our first year ever. With this one.
This one is Giulietta, I believe.
Oh yeah, I think that's what we have here too.
ah,
You get it from Osborne?
it's Juliet.
I got it. Yeah, I actually got it directly from TNT through
Ooh,
Chris
wow.
Field, who's my other radicchio inspiration.
I wonder if he's watching. Yeah, Chris, are you out there?
He would be interested if he was watching.
So probably most, if we were setting up the Raw Bar lineup in person at the beautiful Palace Ballroom again this year, I think the next one we would put in line is probably the Chioggia.
Well, I think the Rosa del Veneto is also bitter, nearly as bitter as the Rosa di Verona. Sometimes I think it's more bitter. When these first sort of showed up on the scene, we were like, what is it? Was it an off type that somebody found in the field? And I thought it was Rosa di Verona. But when we were in Italy in January, Andrea was like, no, this is actually a variety that it's like sort of a, offspring of variety that I'd never heard of, which is Radicchio di Mantovano, which is a green that, if you can imagine, it's just like this, this kind of shape, sort of Rosa di Verona-like, but with a more, kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, egg-shaped, oblong, but like a more supple leaf, not quite as crunchy, but they're green. And I saw them, anyway, it was a new one to me, which I think is one of the things that makes it so interesting. But do you guys have one of these pinkies in there?
We have it in our field, but I think because our summers are a little warmer, it really doesn't do the thing until later.
Our thing is for it to do, it's hard here too. Like ours hasn't really pinked up yet because we have not had a frost. We're having our first frost
It's
tonight.
pretty pink though.
It is, but
I had to hunt.
Yeah.
As I found like two that were starting.
It's very
to color up.
striking looking at watching the Cribs episode and looking at just how different the plants look out there on the West Coast from the East Coast?
Do you say they're like
Radicchio
bigger?
seems just happier out there.
Well, watching Brian in the uprising fields, the plants just had so much less foliage, so much less excess beyond the head than
Right.
our plants do, because we have just so much warmer, a longer, warmer growing period. So
Yeah,
they're
you're
just putting out all of this leaf that we don't need.
Yeah, right.
We are the Veneto of the North America and the Pacific.
Hey, I
Northwest.
think you guys might have it better than the Veneto. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong
We are
thing.
Veneto. Sorry, Italians. They're all asleep anyway. Okay. So reading the video, it does taste. It's a. I don't know. I would say culinarily, like it's not there. It's like a little bit weird. It can't decide whether it's like crunchy or robust or thin and delicate or whatever. But it's so beautiful. Like
It does match your jumpsuit.
I know it's
Well,
fine.
yeah, it doesn't matter what it tastes like, because it's always going to be everyone's favorite from seeing it on the internet. So
Well, we only were able to get it to get pink by forcing. And when you force it, it's so much more mild anyway. So we thought it was delicious. It was just this last winter was the first time trying it for us. And we managed to make some pink heads and it was amazing. So they were mild. I don't know what it would be like. Ours are just not going to pink in the field.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not gonna pink.
And I think it's not, in some years we found that it's not super cold tolerant either, which makes it's got like a pretty like narrow window of like success, where like it has to be cold. You got to have a bunch of frosts for it to like get tight and become pink. But if it gets too cold, then you're hosed on the other end.
So you
Yeah.
can breed the Goldilocks.
Yes.
variety.
It is fussy pink thing. But who's working on the genetics for it right now? Like who's improving this?
Well, so we trialed 2 varieties from Levantia that are that you can get through Osborne, where I think they're refined.
Do you
the
know,
genetics.
based on your conversations on the radicchio expedition, like what all they're selecting for yet?
No,
No.
we didn't spend too much time.
Okay.
talking
All
about
right.
it.
We
I think
won't
we
say.
were there too late in the year.
So what do you want to try next?
Well, so
folks?
we also have, I know you don't have this one either, sorry. With
pink.
This-
So the season for you, excuse me, your like peak season for the pink is November, December.
yeah, I'd say so. Because it's like, it's cold, as long as we don't get like a actual freeze, like a significant cold snap, it'll be good. Like we had good success with it last year, but I think 2 years ago, it got like, we had a couple of days where it never got above freezing in like November, and they all froze.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love for the pink. And you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I think the other cool one that you guys should try, because I think this one is much more cold tolerant, although I think you guys get so cold that cold tolerant doesn't even matter for you, but this is
It's the Costa Rosa.
the Costa Rosa, which is,
Is really gorgeous.
Really is pretty.
Amazing. I'm sure you guys, this has been blowing up the internet the last few days because it's a certified
Blowing up our
Yes.
small corner of the internet.
It's magenta. It's a Rosa di Verona
I know,
like
it's an-
type that's been, selected out to this freakiness.
they're good. They're more her.
No.
So, but it seemed like from what we saw at Cribs that there's a lot more variation in that so far in the seed.
It's a rustico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is very go.
Reminding
This is
me of
mild and
the red Napa that we keep trying different varieties and keep growing, but it just doesn't perform. It's not consistent. It doesn't head, just you want it for the looks. And
Yeah.
how does it taste?
I think it tastes
Siri,
really
It
good.
tastes really-
sounds like Siri likes it.
I'm into it. It's got more of the sweetness than this particular Rosa di Verona. This tastes better than the ones I
Hey, last
tasted
year.
that came out of our field last year. But it's the same variety. It's the
Yeah,
Costa Rosa.
Costa Rosa
Because there are
from-
some other magenta-y ones. What about the Monterosso?
Monterosso and
Okay,
Verosa
never
are
mind.
both pink ones from Levantia. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, I just, as I was talking about with Andrea this morning, I think the fact that there's so much genetic diversity in all these things, and that it's not they're not super consistent. You know, go out there and harvest 100% of what you've got. Like Sam was complaining about how you have to go through it more than once.
I sympathize with Sam, honestly.
I mean,
But like when Brian was talking about the diversity in the Mantovano population, you know, he was hinting that, you know, there's more work for future generations even of breeders to be doing on this stuff, because there's so much magic in that gene bank, you know, in the gene pool, that you can tease out whatever, you know, who knows? Like all of these varieties are less than 100 years old. So who knows what could happen?
Anything can happen.
I know. I think it definitely is one of the things that I find the most exciting about it. You're like, ooh, that one's cool, but you can't go and harvest all of them on the same day. What do you guys think? Chioggia next or Treviso?
Yeah, let's start basic with Chioggia. That sounds good. With some inner.
Which?
Do you know what variety you have?
This is the Leonardo.
Okay.
So this is a hybrid from Johnny's or High Mowing. It's readily available, like winter, you know, north. It's very good in the Northeast for a fall sort of.
They're also ginormous.
Standard.
Ours are petite right now.
Well, I just found a petite one because I needed to fit it on the plate.
Here's a good one. Yeah. Oh my God.
Wow.
That was like a TikTok
From off
situation.
This is
40-50.
50.
Of our first year farming, we started the farm in 2006, and we would like grow frisee and radicchio and chop it up and make a radicchio frisee salad mix for chefs. Nobody wanted it. Nobody knew what to do with it. Things have very much changed.
We were out there floating in the water and no waves were coming, but we stuck out there. The wave is just coming, and we're trying to paddle up toward it.
So there's a question from YouTube for you guys. Have you ever overwintered the Grumolo type? So for those who don't know, the Grumolo types are ones that don't really make a head or do anything cool until like after the hardest part of winter has passed, and then they form these adorable little rosettes, which you saw some, anyone who watched the Radicchio Expedition segment saw the pictures of these gorgeous, like they look like flowers. So have you done the Grumelos?
Yeah, no. We haven't done any overwintering of chicory yet. And the reason for that really is because this sort of the time that you would seed that, we're just feeling so relieved that we don't have to plant anything anymore. That's basically the reason right there. And so we haven't wanted to take on a project that sort of has a time sensitive nature in September, because we're very busy with our peppers and our festival and stuff like that. So sorry.
So maybe for like point of reference, what crops do reliably overwinter for you all?
None.
I mean, not
Nothing lives.
no
Garlic.
leeks.
Spinach you can do sort of.
Strawberries.
Okay, so YouTube questioner, I think the answer is try it.
Grumolo would actually overwinter. I just haven't done it.
You think Grumolo would overwinter, but leeks won't?
We never let them try, you know, they would turn to complete slime.
They would mush.
The root would like live, and then it would sprout again.
I think the key to the group is that the leaves can rot and die, but the root is still alive, and so they regrow late February, early March.
Radicchio in general, our radicchio field, when we leave it past, you know, April, it just starts coming back up. So you know. Okay,
so that's a pretty definitive answer. So YouTube friend, whoever you are, think about that.
I don't promise anything. Who the fuck wants Grumolo anyway?
Apparently, it's the star of the internet these days.
We're like 2 years behind here, guys. Okay, cut us some slack.
Well, no, I mean, everything seems like there's a lot of extra challenge in the Northeast to try and do it. And, you know, we are interested in doing it when the seed stock is reliable and, you know, all of those things are in place. So we were out there growing OP varieties, growing, you know, inconsistently producing types for years. And, you know, it's exciting to have access to really high quality commercial seed now that you can actually do production scale.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, have 90% of the plants that you set out actually make a harvestable head. That's pretty great. And that's really since the TNT became readily available here.
Agreed.
So
Same.
Chris Field at Campo Rosso does Grumolo, but they're in Pennsylvania. So what are the temperature differences in their climate?
They have they're 2 zones warmer than us. So mid-Atlantic, they can harvest into December out of the field reliably, whereas our cutoff is really like the second week in November generally. So our season is very short for.
And that is part of the challenge, is like the combo of that and your hot summers, I think, is the
right.
Yeah.
And that's why forcing has been kind of a focus for us, is that we could grow these things. And we actually were selling radicchio into February last year from our forced varieties.
So you're bringing them in a cooler?
We bring them in, we put them in the cooler, and then we take, you know, a certain amount out of the cooler every week. And we have this set up in our greenhouse where we have radiant heat set up on the bench tops.
Mm-hmm.
And we put like a heavy duty tarp over the whole greenhouse so it stays dark and cool. Most importantly, cool in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
So we're just warming the water that the plants are in.
What temperature do you keep them at in your cooler?
Cold, very cold. So yeah. 34 degrees.
Yeah.
And even so, they don't hold up that great. Like by the end of the season, it's like pretty
gross.
Pretty rough, pretty rustico.
So folks who are watching, you want to see how gross radicchio can get and still be beautiful inside, on the Chicory Week Instagram, there's some great pictures of the slime balls turning.
Oh my God, like in quick succession, a reel of that would be good, high quality programming.
Yeah. Okay. Next year.
Like a compilation of like
the
nasty
blooper reel of the nastiest upon nastiest upon nastiest turned into magic.
Show us your worst radicchio slime.
Yep.
So I think there are a lot of questions that have come in both on the YouTube, but also on the questions that folks asked in the registration about growing in these more challenging climates. So I'm glad that we're touching on all this. I think there's a consensus maybe around like what freeze out temperature is. So someone was asking about the Midwest, Iowa and Illinois. I don't know how cold it gets in those places, but I'd say like if your temperatures are going below, what do you guys think? Like if you're in the 20s a lot, like it's challenging to keep stuff alive and growing, but it might not kill your root. And then maybe in the teens.
The cutoff for us is really when it, like you said, when it doesn't come above freezing for a period of days. And last year we had the earliest one ever. It happened the second week of November. It did not come above freezing for 4 days. Yeah. That was insane. That was rough. So hoping not to have to repeat that too often.
So we assume we have to bulk harvest everything prior to then.
Yep.
Or take our chances, which we often do. I mean, we often get these nasty frosts and then, we go back out anyway and see, scramble and see what we can get. But I think Illinois, Midwest is similar to us in temperature.
Yeah, upper, like Illinois, I don't know how cold it gets. I do know that like varieties like the Grumolo that aren't a dense head are like you're going to have better success with than heads that are really dense. What we find is that when it gets above freezing during the day, the leaves, the plant's still alive, the leaves thaw out and it's fine. Mm-hmm. When they're really dense, like Treviso and Chioggia, the heart stays frozen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because especially in the middle of winter, there's not that much daylight and the sun isn't that powerful. And if it doesn't thaw the whole thing, the part that stays frozen is what rots.
Yeah.
Beware the frozen heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's from Frozen, right?
Oh yeah.
Row cover, though, row cover can really help a lot. If you get the really thick stuff. If you have a small if you're growing, if you're, a small market garden growing on, less than 5 acres, I would assume that you could probably cover all of your radicchio fairly economically with like a single piece of that really thick row cover. And that would definitely be worth investing in.
Yeah.
If you're in small scale.
And it's, it can make the difference between life and death. So I think the last question that we should talk about before we go back to our tasting situation is, and I think this is a question for you all again, is like, what do you feel like is too warm? Like, what are your struggles related to being too warm, or like, talk about the hot, please.
Yeah. So our experience with that is that we used to do 2 large fall plantings, one around the middle of July and then one toward the end of July, early August. And we just always had huge problems with the first planting. And so what we've been doing is to try to, put a huge planting in at the last possible moment, so that the plants aren't subject to these like extreme heat waves that we have in July. So I think our big planting was actually, we didn't get the seed in time this year. And so it was a week after what we even intended to do. And it was a great little happy accident there. So I think it went out on like July 28th was our first fall planting of radicchio. And then we had another planting that went out second week of August even. So we're pushing it. We're pushing it later into the summer when we're planting.
Are those plants going in the ground, or are those seeds going in?
So seeded end of June, early July. But
so
the window is small. The window for planting is very small.
Agreed. Our magic date, because we don't get the super duper hot here, we can succeed with plantings that we sow as early as March. But our like biggest crop of the year is planted right on the summer solstice, sort of similar dates for you. And we find that we can get success with like as late as a seed date of, I don't know, July 7th, July 10th, around there. Then after that, it's too late. Yeah.
We have Puntarelle right now that's just starting, that was seeded on that last date that you mentioned. And it looks great.
Nice. Well, maybe we should.
This one also was seeded on that date. This was seeded probably July 7th.
The little Verona.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some years when we've seeded them that late, they've not made heads. Like they've sort of we've harvested them in March when they sort of put on that like new growth spring. But recently, the last couple of years, those later planting dates have been more successful for us. So I don't know if that's different varieties or climate or.
Well, let's just briefly say before we get back to it is like, what are the issues you have when it's too hot? Is it wilting? Is it fungal stuff? Like when people are thinking about growing these in maybe a latitude or a climate that's a little bit more warm, like what are the problems?
First of all, keeping the plants alive in the greenhouse is a problem, because we found that using shade cloth is absolutely essential for germination, but you really want to harden your plants off to the heat by taking it off for at least 2 weeks before you plant them out. And they're like super stressed by that point. We're watering 3-4 times a day. It's like 110 degrees for 12 hours. And it's pretty extreme.
It's not what radicchio wants.
That's not what they want.
I don't want that either.
And then when you're planting, we're planting like 1.5 acres at a time. And if it's like a heat wave, then you have to delay. You don't want to set the plants out because it takes a while to get them all in the ground. So you got to start at a time of day where like they're going to be in the heat. So that's kind of like the challenge is really in the seedling and planting part of it.
And that's I think the carousel planter, right? Was to speed up the planting process.
We bought the carousel planter so that we could nail it all in one day. So if we have to delay a week because it's a heat wave, then it won't take us a whole week to plant it, and then we'll be behind. We can just like pick the perfect day to do it and then just like get it done.
Yeah. So I think anyone out there who's growing radicchio in like really hot weather and maybe aren't dealing with the same kind of scale challenges that we're talking about, or like greenhouse seedlings. Like if you can move your stuff around, if you're a gardener and you can kind of be a little more nimble, I think radicchio really, it's not, Tim's point is like, it's not necessarily that the plant itself couldn't be happy in a wide range of like climate conditions, but it's more about some like logistical stuff. So, hey, people of the world, like we can see, push the boundaries of where the radicchio can thrive. Okay.
Here, film
Right.
Right.
All right. So we're going to.
Do you want to eat some
I would
puntarelli?
say you also see powdery mildew. It was interesting to see Sam surprised to see it because it's a thing for us.
We get it. And I noticed that one of the people, like a gardener, I think around the Pacific Northwest, like powdery mildew is a very big gardener problem. Like people growing in city soils where it's harder for their soil to retain moisture. And they're like watering every day, a lot of plants, like they're getting a lot of water stress. We don't get it a ton, but yeah, not unheard of for sure.
In years where we didn't do as great of a job at weeding it, it tends to be worse. So I think air circulation around the plants is key. I noticed that, you know, a lot of the Italian growers are growing on 2 rows, where a lot of the American growers are growing on 3 rows, that we're used to sort of packing everything into its tiny gardens and whatever. And, you know, even at scale, we're doing 3 rows still. So, you know, spacing your plants out more would be, you know, sort of a, you don't want them to get too big though. So there's another.
I would say, you know, the uprising field where there was so little excess foliage also, I think, is a help to prevent the powdery mildew, because it's all of that foliage massed together that is conducive to it. So, you know, we've been year after year trying to do less fertility in the fields for the radicchio in order to like have less overgrowth, really. And that's also helped a little bit.
Okay, I know on this topic for a long time, but we just got a comment from somebody growing radicchio, Compostela Farm in Mississippi. This is awesome. And they're saying their plant date is early to mid-September. They still have very high temperatures into mid-October, but the daylight becomes less intense and the nights are temperatures are cooler. And so they're having success on the Gulf Coast. Sweet.
Cool.
Thank
That's
you.
so great. Yeah.
It's awesome.
That was so interesting about Myrta with like, you know, daylight ending at 2 p.m. And we're trying to understand how that impacts heading and growth in just fewer hours.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about bolting, really.
Well, I mean, that's just really, I mean, if people, you know, down in Mississippi are doing this, literally anyone could do. I mean, that's the high heat, the humidity, the heavy rain, like all of the Northeast problems, but like times 10. Yeah.
Right.
So I feel like we should address the spring planting versus the fall planting in terms of heat and bolting just a little bit.
Yeah, we've almost completely scrapped our spring crop at this point. This year we put in like only Chioggia and Belfiore, and it just like we didn't harvest any of it. It was just garbage. Yeah.
We don't have the shoulder seasons that we used to have. I feel like an old person now saying, in the old days we would have a spring that was slower and cooler, and we just don't get it.
And to be concerned about global warming because it's impacting the availability
of radicchio
in the shoulder season. It's real. It's really real.
I know. It didn't matter much to me until I couldn't eat radicchio in July, and then I started caring.
Yeah. You know, whatever it takes.
Play.
Right?
I like to eat cucumbers personally. Cucumbers in July. That's gonna be what I'm doing. So,
would you guys like to eat? Should we have some Treviso?
Yes.
Look, I cut it. It's trying to keep growing.
It's making a little fan.
We have multiple varieties, but this one is the sort of medium slot.
Which variety?
206.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't believe is available in the Osborne catalog.
I have to say, I'm noting in our harvest this week, much better coloration than we normally get.
This is good.
We have much whiter ribs from this early harvest than we have in previous years because we had a much cooler September. We just got lucky this year.
We're having
it really makes.
Which variety is this one, Jason?
That is TVG1. So that's also a TNT variety.
It's just sort of our staple for like
This is delicious.
early fall through, I don't know. We harvest this like August through October.
Yeah.
And then we switch into the Baldo and Bottiglione for primarily because they store so well. So we plant these on our main harvest date, but not after that usually.
We I tried these at tasting this year.
I gotta say, this one has even more white rib than the Verona, you know, proportionally.
It's also full of water. It's like full of like juicy. I mean, the bitter is there, but it's sweet.
I just want to encourage everybody to like not stop cutting when you're making your salad. You know, go all the way down to the root because that's the good stuff right there.
Totally true. That one, the bottom of the plant almost looks like a bok choy. It's like got this almost bulbing.
I have the same issue with bok choy when people prep bok choy and throw the good stuff away.
Kale, I do that again. Throw that shit away.
So do you have like a little dip dressing?
You got some pinzimonio over there? What is
that? Puntarelli.
Oh, it's just it's soaking already.
Is it curling?
You guys are clever.
I was trying to get them to curl. Some of them did.
Well, you got our tool. I can't wait till we get to that. Where's yours? Yeah.
We have
We do. Let's do variegated types. You know.
Okay.
And then let's talk about Puntarelli because it's like people are so interested in it, and they're like, "Oh my God, I ate this on vacation in Rome, and I've never seen it again since then, and I'm swooning, and I need it." And so I think we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But
okay, variegato.
This one is the Luzia Precoce.
Is that even visible?
Which
so pretty. It's
so much color.
Belfiore.
That's what ours is. Ours is too.
Belfiore, aka Adige.
Adige Medio or
Adige Medio is the same as Belfiore?
I think so.
I think so. Unless somebody here who can.
Because we got this other one over here, which this one made like a much bigger plant.
And it's much more creamy, yellowy colored.
Oh, this one's nice. What's that?
This is what I thought was Adige Medio.
Oh,
and there's a lot of variability, but
it's true.
One of the varieties of this that we planted is bigger, and I thought it was this one.
I think the Belfiore from Johnny's is Adige Precoce.
Adige Precoce.
That would make sense.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is Precoce.
It's very
sure.
Precoce. This one was from our second planting, so this was planted very late. And it looks almost like a variegated Chioggia. It's fairly tight.
Yeah. There is a little bit of like masquerading, I think, that goes on with the Lucia. Like at certain times of year, especially after it gets cold, it can really like masquerade as a Castelfranco. And then earlier in the season, I think it does when it makes the ball shape. It's a little bit like it's a little mysterious.
So much texture-wise, like iceberg. Like it's got those convoluted folds, and it's very tender and delicate.
This one is thicker. It's like
thicker.
You almost still feel the hairs on it. I don't know. It's like thicker.
I'm gonna do this real weird.
This one is also
very tender.
It's very juicy. I think that's what I'm talking about when I say the iceberg.
Yeah. This one's a little hairy.
Is it bolting? Get rid of it.
It's very mild. But...
Yeah, like it's really interesting that the radicchio that American like supermarket chains that you see in the stores in North America is almost always Chioggia, and it's such a bummer because it's a less approachable thing. Like, why couldn't Americans intro to radicchio have been one of these beautiful variegated ones that are milder?
It's an easy sell.
The thing is, they don't hold. The Chioggia is a great supermarket shelf item because you can just peel off a layer and it's like nothing ever happened. It's been there for weeks and nobody knew.
Yeah,
that is a tragedy. This is not what it should be like.
Well, so Sam, I think so. He's working on a much bigger farm, and they have an account with, some kind of regional distributor who called it shelf.
Oh yeah, they call it shelf decoration. Radicchio in general. They're like, yeah, we have it in the store.
Nobody buys it. It's just to add a splash of color in between things and people buy. But I think that's legitimately changing.
That makes being a wholesale farm somewhat depressing. We sell to distributors as well, and a lot of our distributors are sort of newer, smaller scale, serving a lot of sort of indie, Brooklyn-y kind of shops where I don't know that it's just window dressing, thankfully.
Yeah, we are lucky that we have a lot of these new distributors that have a client base of seriously locally oriented.
Yeah, food loving people.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the sort of missions, broader missions of this whole radicchio movement that we're doing, the Chicory Week concept, is to take radicchio out of this niche kind of gourmet elitist slot and make it something that's more widely available. Like maybe if you don't have a farmer's market in your neighborhood, maybe, we want to make sure that all these varieties that are a little bit more appealing to the palate of the typical United States citizen or person who lives here are available in supermarkets, and not just sad, wilty escarole in the corner, but that we can all eat this all the time, no matter where we're getting our groceries. So we got to keep. Yeah.
Well, it's been super interesting because COVID happened in mid-March. We realized that our markets were going to shift this year. And we had time to decide at that point if we were going to alter our radicchio plantings, because historically radicchio has gone to distributors and to restaurants primarily. When we used to do farmers markets and CSA, there was very little appetite for it. But we had been able to scale our production and find buyers because we were now at a wholesale oriented,
to urban markets,
to urban, to upscale restaurants ultimately. But we decided not to scale it back. We decided to just ride the wave and see what happened. And we now have this new sales where we're selling directly to customers through home delivery, and
just here
we're
selling
where we are. The radicchio. It's amazing. I mean, we're about to get into the big fall planting, which is a different scale of radicchio production than we've had up to now in the season. But
we're moving more of it to a local audience than we ever have through this new channel. And it is funny because our whole COVID response strategy meeting came down to are we still going to grow the radicchio?
Yeah, that was the only thing in question.
It was
everything else we figured we could find a way to move, but the radicchio was the sticker.
Yes, we are. We're going to grow it.
We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
And the only change we made is that I was let's use this year to experiment with closer spacing. So we take up space, but we plant the same number of heads.
Because, similarly, we direct to restaurants. We're super close to Seattle. So we're able to do our own distribution, but we, in the pre-COVID time, we're selling to 40 restaurants a week. And that was where the bulk of our radicchio was going. And so, yeah, it was similarly a little leap of faith situation with the radicchio. And similarly, we're about to hit max production, and, we'll see where it goes.
So far, so good. So far, so good, though.
Well, that's why, broadening the network is essential, because we're able to reach the people, the right people, our radicchio people. They're out there. We just have to connect.
It's like a matchmaking between the people who seek it out and can't find it, and those of us who are we love this, we grow this, where are the people? I think, this is really one of the beautiful things about the internet and social media, is that it's easier for people to find these specialty crops in their local area. A lot of other things are not good, but I do think that the radicchio heads are out there. When we staged this event 2 years ago for the first time, we were well, I don't know.
I know. Will anybody come?
It was popping. It was a lot of farmers.
Yeah.
but also a lot of just home radicchio lovers. Like I think that the registrants for this today for Rad TV, I think is more than half
Non-farmers.
what they, you know, we categorize themselves, and it's like a home cook. So, you know, great. It's awesome.
Do you guys want to eat
Let's
some
eat
Castle
some
Franco?
Castelfranco.
Castelfranco. So I had been talking that I had been saying that it wasn't ready, but we found some
Turns out
pretty ideal
it's as
specimens
beautiful
out
as
there.
it could possibly be.
So which one is this?
We've got Lucrezia,
Mhm.
That's what we have too.
and it's just so abundant. It's just, the leaves are enormous. You could write a book on this.
It is. It's a
I
generous.
love the jagged
Frastagliata.
edge is just like Bart's hair, kind of.
Oh my God. It's the Bart Simpson hair of radicchio, y'all.
Mhm.
I know.
Seed catalog description.
Mm.
This is so good.
It's so good.
Definitely. I think just like this year, this is the best tasting radicchio that we've ever grown. I don't know if it's like that we're so special, but like
Did we irrigate this
we
field?
had to irrigate it. And it's a very naturally sort of rich and moisture retaining field anyway. But we had no natural rain from planting until the second week of September or something. So
That is unusual for you all. That is normal for
Yeah.
us.
This
Well,
was our second drought year in 4 years, I think. And
So less
it was
unusual.
significant.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's the best. The Franco,
This doesn't
Is the-
even need a sharp vinaigrette.
no.
Like
No.
there's no bitterness.
there's
at all.
nothing to mask here. Just you want it to be able to be tasted because it's so delicious.
Oh, we love radicchio so
Wait,
much.
no, I mean it's crazy. There's like everything
So-
you think you knew about radicchio, you don't know if you haven't tried the Castelfranco.
True. It's like a completely different
I know.
vegetable. Ah,
It's because it's crossed
So
with
good.
escarole in ancient times.
Escarole never tasted that good. I don't know.
No, I know. But it's something.
But yeah, look at that leaf edge. Can you see that? Oh,
beautiful.
so
Beautiful.
cool. Look, it said Bart right there.
I didn't do
I
it.
think we should have brought an escarole in, but
Different.
actually,
I know.
At all. Like those inner leaves of the escarole that are both like vegetal and buttery. I mean, yes. Escarole, please don't be offended you weren't invited to the party. We still love you. You're just not rad.
Should we finish this off with some
Yeah, we have 8 minutes left before we're moving on.
shots in the head?
Oh, we brought a big one too.
Oh my God.
Oh, did that hit you over there?
That was fun.
Open it up. Oh. No, it wasn't.
Coming right to me. That's nice. So
It's pretty nice.
That's nice. So, okay, what are we? Is this the Salerno?
This was, yeah, from La Semiorto Cementi in Campania.
Yeah,
This was called the Puntarella Galatina.
yeah.
And it's pretty good for us. It's like, you
Our-
know,
Well, so, and just point of reference here, Wild Roots Farm in Oregon has been growing this variety this year as well, and are like, it's amazing. It's so uniform.
Yeah.
Instead of just going out there and being like, what will we see? Will there be like any that are ready? Are they some going to be totally immature and some going to be bolting? High uniformity, high like success rate, and we're super excited to grow it next year.
This is a
I am very excited
major game changer.
about this seed channel that has just opened up to Southern Italian seeds. Like I feel like there's another expedition in the works that we could go to Campania,
Yeah.
Puglia.
go-
Like that's where I feel like my imaginary Italian soul is residing.
In the south.
Veneto
Well,
or
I loved the story thing you put up the other day. It's total digression, but the broccoli rabe tour, like all of the different she made the rabe that you're growing. I was like, yes, I need this in my life so bad. It's like it's my white whale.
Well,
of farm.
Lane has commissioned me, you'll be glad to know, to do a video, like a cribs video for the winter vegetable saga that will air in March.
On rapini. And
on broccoli rabe and other various inflorescence.
The inflorescence.
Nice.
Awesome. This is an inflorescence. So let's talk about it.
No. So I guess for anybody who doesn't know, this is the craziest vegetable ever. And it's a chicory. It's a Catalonia chicory. And each one of these things is a little incipient flower stalk, which will grow tall. And yeah, we do have a knife.
Okay.
And
freshwater sea creatures.
Yeah, I know. It's like fennel asparagus.
it really is asparagus-like.
Yeah.
The way they.
Okay, so to use the tool, you cut off this hard part at the bottom, correct?
Correct. So I did that, cut off the bottom, cut the butt. And then I've noticed if I pull off any of the like extraneous outer leaves too, because they kind of get caught.
Less fibrous.
So
Yeah.
these leaves, however, are like highly desirable in your salad bowl.
Mhm.
Don't
Yes,
throw them
Do
away.
not throw away.
Mhm. But for going through the little thing, like,
And you pull it through.
You go from the top or from the bottom?
Away from
I
your
go-
tool.
I go from the bottom because the top is hard to get started, and then I pull it through once I can grab onto it. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
No,
It's
I'm
okay.
not very good at this.
And then
Hung up.
cold water or warm water.
I feel like you gave me this and then you said these are not very good.
Did we?
But no, here's the thing. Okay.
Oh wait, no, if you grab it and pull.
Yeah, you do it.
No,
You gotta
I broke it.
That's what happened to us too, beheading. You guys, people of the internet, if you're watching this, what you need
Italians,
to
tell
do is look up the videos of the old lady in Rome cutting the puntarelle.
Hmm.
They are way better than we are.
And
in-
without this.
No, they use that.
They use this.
Use
Yeah.
that.
They're just more talented at it because they've had more practice than
Everything in
a
life.
lifetime to practice.
Yeah.
you want to
I
try.
also
it?
think
Caroline's
we were
gonna
checking,
try it.
and you were like, how big is, like at what point is it too bolted to be useful? And I think that's a really interesting question, because I picked one that I brought in where they were just like a little bit taller than this, and they got a little floppy. I couldn't, like, they didn't have enough like rigidity to push through the puntarelle
And
cutter.
too fibrous, kind of.
Or just not rigid enough.
The wall wasn't hard enough. I couldn't. It was flaccid.
Guys,
But
treading into-
I heard, so we had a visit recently from Franco from Natura, one of the distributors that's based in London that has now a New York outpost. And he was suggesting that you really do want them to get longish so that they'll curl better. If you have too compact and dense a head and you don't have long shoots, you won't see the curling.
Right.
So I was under the impression that the sort of 6-inch range on the spears was ideal, but he was suggesting that 6 to 12 is optimal for
Let me try.
his personal preference. But then I showed it the next day. I had my Italian professor who is from Bari in Puglia, which they have like a competing,
Yes.
there's a Campania Puglia rivalry on a lot of these other southern Italian greens. And
Only the right seen that.
he was like, no, that is too long. It's bitter. It's too bitter. But
Well-
it's not really bitter. So
I know. Well, it's all subjective, right?
It is.
this
So-
is not bitter at all. This was so good. It's
But
a completely
knowing-
different flavor than the radicchio.
Knowing that you are okay to let them get a little bit long and spindly and weird really helps with having harvestable plants.
It does.
You can't catch them all when they're just emerging.
I know. We were going through every other day, sort of like the way we pick zucchini and picking out those that are ready.
Wow.
This is a crop that we cut. We only grew like 1.5 beds of it this year because we were like, nobody's gonna buy this.
On the other hand, the people are clamoring for it all over the Seattle area. So
people are bored.
Yeah.
And just FYI, people of the world. So these cutters, like when Italy lets us back in again, you can go and buy one yourself at the Campo dei Fiori market or other markets around Rome. Does Uprising still have it? So Brian, if you're listening, are you all still selling these Uprising seeds?
No answer.
But if you don't, I don't know. Well, he's not answering. It's weird. But you can cut it with a knife. Okay, so you don't. This was actually like a relatively recent invention of some guy in Rome, and maybe like 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
For real?
Yeah. Before this, they would just cut it with a knife. So just cut it with a knife.
That's okay.
Did I hear that you were going to demonstrate how to do that?
Me? Jason's gonna do it. He loves to. Okay, we only have one. Well, we're up. But okay, here. So we got to eat this.
We're out of time.
We got
Ready?
cheers.
I ate mine already.
Here, take one of my
The
curling.
curly ones.
Whole. Chomp it all.
So nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have to say, like, watching everybody in their radicchio fields, it's like we're all connected. And
Yes.
We're all on the same team.
Based on airfare, that's for sure.
I know.
It's just wrong for us to not be out on the West Coast this year for the first year in a while. But thank you for making it possible to be together anyway.
Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
This has been a lot of fun.
Who knows? Maybe in Puglia, Tim. I'll go with you, okay? All right, cheers.
I so want to go back.
Zero bitterness in this, by the way.
Amazing.
I agree.
All right, everybody out there in TV land, thanks for taking part in the experimental virtual raw bar.